Hello, YouTube. Good morning. My name is Uncle Barrett. This is part two of my testimony and just kind of like what my journey has been like the last few years. I'm going to be talking about four dreams or another four dreams that I've had. This is kind of spaced out throughout my life. The first dream I had when I was 4 years old, and then the last three I had when I was about 12 years old. That was spanned out for about a couple of weeks. Spaced out for about a couple of weeks. But in my first dream at 4 years old, I was basically with my family, and a white cloud came out from the sky and scooped us up and brought us to a really, really bright light. I remember I just could barely see it. And all I remember was we were thanking this light. Um, I was thanking this light for saving me and my family, is what I remember expressing gratitude to this light towards. Um, and the second dream, when I was 12 years old, basically I was dressed in Roman attire. Um, I had everything but my helmet on. Um, I was flying in the sky, and I remember there were like thousands of demons and angels kind of fighting in the sky, and it looked like there was a lot of chaos on the earth. But when I looked down at the earth from my viewpoint from the sky, I looked down. I saw a big demon, what looked like to be in the biggest mountain on the earth. Um, he was just huge. He had red eyes and this kind of vampire snarly teeth, bald headed with kind of elvish ears, pointy ears. And it was weird because it looked like he was locked inside the biggest mountain on the earth. To my understanding, that's Mount Everest uh, in real life. But he was locked in like a caged animal, just being tormented by some fire. There's just a lot of fire coming out of this mountain. And for whatever reason, even though there was a lot of action in the sky, it looked like he was zoned in on me, and he was cussing me out, saying, you know, Trent, my middle name's Trent, but in the dream, he was saying, Trent, you think you're saved? I remember when you did this and did this and did that. And he just went down this whole list of things I had done in my past. And if anybody knows scripture, they call Satan the accuser. But in my dream, I remember just so focused on what he was saying because, I had done those things. But the truth is that I was more focused on what he was saying versus what the Redeemer had said about me. So in the dream, I was so focused on what he was saying, my physical body started to get weaker and weaker to the point where I just started to fall at the sky, and I was falling, and these hands came up and kind of grabbed me, and to keep me from falling. Those same hands placed their hands over my ears to where I couldn't hear what the demon was saying anymore. And then they turned me around to where I couldn't see the demon. But when I turned around, I just saw this huge being just made out of fire. His hair was fire. His eyes were made out of fire. And then he spoke to me. He basically said to keep your eyes on me. But his voice was so thunderous, it just kind of shook my soul. It was like, I don't know, when he spoke, felt like my soul just shook. And it caught my attention. And then that dream ended. Um, I want to say like maybe a couple of nights later, I had a second dream where um, I'm standing before this same big fiery being made out of fire. He was sitting on a throne. And I remember it was me and six other, it looked like they were generals in an army, maybe. We were all dressed in like samurai attire, warrior attire. And I remember I had a flaming sword in my hand. Um, you know, um, the word says that the word is like a two-edged sword. Um, that you can cut down to the soul pretty much. But in this dream, this sword was made out of fire. No words were said in this dream, but it felt like it was a war meeting, like we were waiting on the king's stamp of approval for a particular war strategy, is what it looked like. And in the last dream that I think was relevant to this subject is, um, again, it was very short. This dream probably happened about a week later, maybe. But in this dream, basically, it was a Greek kind of Roman statue that kind of came towards me. And a voice spoke from the statue and said that I'm Nero. At the time when I was at that age, I didn't know too much about Roman history at that time. But as I got older, I started to realize that Nero was probably one of the worst persecutors for the Christians at his time. And I know there's a lot of talk, um, just speculating on who the Antichrist is during these days. Some people think that it could be a president or, some rich guy, but there's a guy that a network called AOC Network, and there's a couple of videos that kind of sparked my interest because it kind of reminded me of my dream as far as the facts that they brought up. Some of them talked about CERN and what they were doing in Europe, and then also what China is doing with their version of CERN that's scheduled to be done in 2026. Um, they also made another video called The Two Witnesses. Um, if you refer back to my first video, I spoke about a sinking ship, and at the end of that dream, two lights kind of pierced the darkness and exposed kind of like an Egyptian um, just culture that was on the ship. When I think about that dream with the ship sinking, with the light shining on it, I think of the two witnesses shining light on where darkness is. Just to kind of give you a little bit of my thoughts towards that first dream. But to go back to the Nero dream, me personally, the reason why I think they are trying to raise the Antichrist from hell is because they are envious of Christ's resurrection. And so Satan cannot create things, he just tries to mimic what God does. And so, since God is known for raising people from the dead, Satan has gone out of his way, at least in my personal belief, he's gone out of his way to create technology that it's kind of like a race around the world to see who can open up these portals first. And I believe that Satan has made promises to these people, like a reward. Hey, if you open up these portals for me, I'll give you infinite wishes, or like a reward. It's a false reward, kind of referring back to, in the first video I was talking about the last dream where the Titanic was sinking. But what I think they are doing is they're just trying to mimic Christ and raising up their king, their Caesar. Um, there's just a lot of prophetic words centering around that, and I think that um, the video, the portal of the ancient evil opening up, unmasking the Antichrist from AOC Network, kind of explains that better than I could. But it just is, their teachings kind of reminded me of that particular dream where, I'm seeing a big, huge demon cussing me out pretty much from the biggest mountain on the earth. To my knowledge, China is building their version of CERN, um, and in Beijing, I believe. And I believe that Mount Everest, to my understanding, is about 17 minutes away from Beijing. So that's what made me think about my dream in terms of the biggest demon cursing me out from the biggest mountain. Um, what made me think about Nero was obviously the statue with Nero, but just listening to the teachers of the network, exposing that. I think that they're trying to raise up Nero Caesar. I could be wrong, but you guys let me know what you think. Again, I have many more dreams and many more stories. I'm just trying to talk about things that happened to me. There's a lot of things that's happened to me that's kind of just made me um, try to keep my eyes open to see like what's really happening all around me. I know that you all are aware of the bombings that's going on and around the country right now, and I know that a lot of people are talking about the Travis Hunter situation with his girl, and I know people are talking about NIL and the transfer portal. So all these things seem to be happening at once. I'm not here to stop anything, but one of the reasons why I'm making these videos is to possibly raise awareness to what times we're living in. I know for years a lot of people have been saying that we're living in the last days, and a lot of people may have gotten numb to that warning. But from my standpoint, I feel like the dreams from part one in my first video, and then these four dreams that I just described are all kind of painting a picture as far as what time of day it is. Scripture says that no man, no prophet, no preacher is going to know the day or time when Jesus or Yeshua or Yahusha, however you want to say it, um, when he's coming back. But he did say that you would know by the times of the season, like what's happening around you, that we're getting close. So those are kind of my thoughts on those first four dreams. I'll kind of go in a little bit more detail about them and make more videos about them as far as expressing more in more detail what I think about each one. But what do you guys think? I mean, are you guys having dreams? I don't think I'm the only one. I mean, Scripture says that the young man and people will be having dreams in the latter days. Are you guys having dreams? What do you guys think about everything that's going on right now? Do you think it ties to the last days? You know, to kind of go back to my thoughts on the first dream um, about the ship sinking. Um, so recently, you know, my my knowledge of the Titanic was that it was just a grand ship that basically had bad luck and hit an iceberg. And based off of the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm thinking like, these people are saying that even God can't sink this ship. And in my mind, I thought it was just pride before destruction. Well, um, I think that was true, but I think there's a lot more to that. Um, there's a few videos out that talk about a mummy that was possibly stored on the Titanic. It was a cursed mummy. And so when I found out about that story, it reminded me of how the ship was sinking and there was an Egyptian, we basically had like an Egyptian culture on us. Well, um, if you know more about that story with the Titanic, J.P. Morgan and, a few of the elites, some of them did not get on the ship. And basically, these people are the founders of the Federal Reserve. In fact, there's a conspiracy saying that that they maybe even sunk the ship on purpose to make a profit or to get rid of their competition of anybody that would oppose the creation of the Federal Reserve. Well, keeping that in mind, we should all understand that their descendants are still here. And if you go and kind of check out, um, I guess their concerns about this cursed mummy that was on the Titanic. It should be said that these same people that rule the Federal Reserve still believe in these gods or these deities from Egyptian culture, um, and I honestly believe that the two witnesses are supposed to shine light on this cursed culture that they've adopted. Just like in the Titanic, um, I believe that some of these elites that escaped the ship used the Titanic's wreckage as a sacrifice to their gods. And I believe that their descendants are doing the same thing, um, using our ignorance and our destruction to make a profit, and also giving honor to their gods at the same time to remain in power. Um, Again, these are all just things that I've been kind of studying and trying to put all together just based off of the dreams I've had and the things I've been seeing in real life. And I think that it's just pointing to a time of what's happening in America right now. Let me be clear. This is my home. America has always been my home. I don't know anything else. So I'm always going to be protective of my home and what I'm familiar with. But we as Americans have to do a self assessment on what we believe in. I know we talk about freedom, but let's ask ourselves the questions: do we really feel free? I mean, I know I'm broke, you know, I work and I try to keep up with these bills and stuff, but it seems like, um, one of the stories from the Bible that comes to my mind is when the Pharisees are trying to ask Jesus about Roman taxes, about the money, and then Jesus on whether they should pay taxes to Rome or not. It was a setup question to get Jesus caught up in some drama, but to my understanding, uh, Jesus responded to him and said, "Whose image is on uh, this coin?" And it was Caesar's image on that coin. And he replied to the Pharisees that to give what is Caesar's and to give God what is God's is my belief from the bottom of my heart that if Jesus was to come back right now and the American people would ask him the same question about our money and our taxes, Jesus would respond. He would look at the image and ask us whose image is on this coin. And I believe that his response would be, um, well, give Mystery Babylon what is hers and give God's what is God's. If you don't know anything about Mystery Babylon, you have to do a little bit of research on what Babylon was, because it's not here anymore. It was destroyed because of certain reasons. And compared to what the United States is doing right now, um, it's a lot, and it would always be a lot. Like I said, I got a lot more just stories and dreams and stuff that I feel like is kind of tying up. Basically, just warning us on what time of day it is. Um, I'll say it again. I think I kind of mentioned it in my first video that basically we all have to do a self assessment on where we are with Christ. It doesn't matter whether you believe in Him or not. Scripture says that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that He is Lord. Um, One of the things that kind of made me think about um, just whether hell was real or not was one of my testimonies was I was coming back from Memphis at the time. I believe this was 20 2010, I believe. And I went back to my home church and basically I had an altar call. I haven't really been to church in a while, so I didn't know if anything was going to happen or not. But basically, I went to the altar and I put my hands up and just trying to reach out to God. And I felt these hands come up behind and touch my shoulders. These hands pushed me down to the ground, like spread eagle, just in total submission. Um, I thought it was maybe a family member or somebody coming up to support me, but when I turned around, there was nobody behind me. So there was something touching me that didn't seem to be there. Well, if you can imagine, I was in shock. I mean, you hear about these stories, but it never happened to me up until this point. And that's when I heard an audible voice in my right ear speak about, um, asked me a question, asked me, do I feel what's happening to me right now? And again, I was in shock, so I kind of just nodded my head yes. And that voice replied and said, that means that hell is real. At that point, I had cried because, for a while I've been basically asking God to help me understand if he was real or not. At that time, I didn't really trust my family, friends, the church. It just seemed like everybody was just telling me a bunch of things that weren't consistent. And so growing up in church, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to God, but I was trying to get to a place where it was like, hey, if you're real, please talk to me to where I can understand you. And that's how he spoke to me. He said that hell was real. And I appreciate that from him because, you know, um, demons are real and, witchcraft is real. So I knew that it wasn't a demon or Satan himself because Satan is not going to warn you about hell. So those are just a couple of things. I told you about those dreams, and there was a separate time where I've only heard God's voice audibly twice. That was the first time that I heard him. I'll be talking about the second time I heard his voice in the next video. Until then, I hope y'all have a blessed day. Um, I encourage you all to, um, you know, if you don't believe in God, that's totally okay. But if there's anything inside of you that is trying to figure out if he's real or not, I would just advise to just get to a place by yourself and ask him to speak to you to where you can understand him. Um, he's God. He can talk to anybody however he wants to get across in their brains as far as like who he is. One thing I want you to consider is that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that he's Lord. And the way that he spoke to me about it was that we're either going to be in hell begging him for mercy, or we're going to be before his throne thanking him for mercy. So that's all for today. Just something to think about. Um, I hope that you all have a blessed day. Like I said, I just started up my Instagram. It's uncle underscore Barrett on Instagram. Um, if you all would like to leave a blessing on there, as far as a Cash App, I'm a server and slow right now, so anything will be helpful. But until then, I hope that you all have a blessed day and that you keep your eyes on God if that's what your heart desires. Stay safe out there and stay prayed up. Y'all have a good day. See you next time.